What's going on, everybody? This is a segment from the Nerdgasm Talk podcast. If you like podcasts, well, why don't you come join us as the crew gets silly and Philly while we sit to talk about the latest in comics, games, movies, and all things pop culture. You guys can listen to our whole show on all the podcasts apps. We're on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever you guys get your podcasts from. And make sure you guys also support the channel by subscribing to the Nerd Coalition Studios. And for the gaming needs, make sure you subscribe to Nerd Coalition Level Up. This is the Nerd Coalition. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. And now, feel the nerd. This past week, I don't know if it was on. It had to be Tuesday, was it?
What?
When this documentary dropped.
On Sunday.
Sunday.
Yeah, no,
Okay, past Sunday, a new documentary dropped on Max or Discovery Plus. If you still had it, you don't. On Max. And it was called Quiet on the Set. Prime told me about this documentary because am I allowed to share some things, Prime?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so for those who don't know, Prime out there, he has worked, a lot in film and music and stuff like that. Especially a big group that he works with has been a lot of the Nickelodeon stars. So Prime, and that's who Lead Boy TV. Lead Boy TV is actually Leon. What's his last name? I want to make sure I get his name right.
Ryerson.
Yes, from all that. Who, when I be promoting the podcast, or Prime Side podcast, that's who Prime does the podcast with. And I've been on that podcast before, and I have talked to him before, and he's a great dude. Great dude, very energetic dude. Enjoys having me on there. I love doing the show with the three of them. And like I said, they don't make me feel like the third wheel. So I think it's really cool. So when he told me about this documentary before they even announced it, I was like, what are you talking about? Because you know what's funny? I have to do this to myself. Pryor was on there working. He went on the road for a little bit. That's why we don't do these podcasts all because he'd be on the road. He was doing Good Burger 2 stuff, right? And I had mentioned, and this is on me, I said, hey, I was watching the trailer the other day. I said, where's Dan Snyder at? Because he played the manager.
You said, where's the manager at? You didn't know that man name.
Okay, where's the manager? You're right. You're right. I said, where's the manager at, right? And Prime was like, whoa! We don't mention his name.
That man is Voldemort.
And I said, what? Because I didn't know. And he said, you don't know about what's been going with Dan Snyder? And I said, oh, so that's his name. I was like, no, I didn't. I really didn't know because, like I said, I have been so out of touch, especially with like Nickelodeon stuff. And Prime started sending me all this. I was like, oh, damn.
Not oh damn.
There. He's like, yeah, there's some shit happening. So I was just like, okay. So then when he told me about the documentary was coming out, I was just like, so is it just going to be like talking about Dan Snyder and some? He's like, no. There's some stuff that happened in Nickelodeon that's like deep into the scene. I was like, so I seen the trailer and I said, yikes. So then the documentary came out. It's 4 parts. 4 parts of breaking it down from like the beginning era Nickelodeon, then to when we get to like the late 90s and 2000s, and then going into like that whole third episode is dedicated to.
It's just the molestation.
Yes.
The Drake Bell episode.
Child abuse.
The Drake Bell episode. Then the 4th episode is going into Dan Snyder and flying too close to the sun. That's how it's set up.
Mm-hmm.
So to give a little context here, me and Lay Sketch. Okay, I'm 35. Laura will be 36 this year. She's 34 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of stumbled on that.
Yeah, I was about to say, let's talk about it. I didn't even get a Laura will and be 35. I'm just 30.
It's like that scene in Johnson Fell on Vacation. He was like, "This is my wife. She lives across the street."
Yo.
Funny movie. We talked about that too in the interview. Anyway, Prime, you are what? 30, 29?
Somewhere in that range.
29.
You hesitate a little bit.
No, 29.
Okay, so there are two different eras, and I know if Kifo listening to this, because he first he thought we would say no.
He swore we had the same Nickelodeon.
We don't.
We
have
did
the
not,
same
my man.
Because
I'm sorry.
So when me and Lacey were watching Nickelodeon, especially in the early days, I watched it for the kid game shows. Okay.
Yes.
I watched it for Double
Daring. Guts. Do you have it?
Legend of the Hidden Temple. Figure It Out. Mark Summers was my guy.
We caught the tail end of the Salute Your Shorts, Sarah, and
exactly
that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So Salute Your Shorts. Are You Afraid of the Dark? Clarissa Explains It All. Those kind of Nickelodeon shows is what we were coming up to, especially in the 90s. And at that time, and Kablam and all that.
Alex Mack.
Yeah. So yeah, at that time, that's what we watched Nickelodeon. Then when the 2000s hit, I was strictly into wrestling at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't watching, Drake and Josh.
Yeah, I was watching UPN.
Exactly. I wasn't watching Zoe 101.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. I wasn't watching Zoe 101. I wasn't watching Sam and Cat. I wasn't watching any of the newer shows. So then when I had children, and my son, because it's funny, because my son is a Nickelodeon guy, and my daughter is the Disney.
She loves Disney.
But he's the Nickelodeon. So he was watching Game Shakers. He was watching Thundermans. He was watching Zoe 101. They didn't care about the Zoe 102, I think it was.
I can't remember because I was checked out. Zoe 102
came out. Zoe 102 came out last year.
So yeah, he was watching Henry Danger. All that stuff he was into.
So that means that we effectively skipped over everything they talked about in this documentary.
Exactly, and they had to come back to it. So that's our history of Nickelodeon. And in this documentary, I just have to say, my jaw hit the floor. My jaw hit the floor because I wasn't expecting a lot of this stuff to be coming. First of all, I applaud the people that was part of this, that was able to open it up to talk about this stuff. That's hard to do. When you are in this situation, and there's still plenty that have not talked about it. There's still some talking heads that we have not even heard from in this documentary. That has been
like Amanda.
Yeah, Amanda. God, Amanda Bynes.
I was wondering. I didn't think she would be a part of it because I was like, I don't know if she's well enough to sit down and talk about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because I kind of get I got the sense from when we were watching it, where you could tell there were some kids who really had no place for salvation. It was like the work environment was toxic, their home situation was toxic because their parents were either very consumed by them being famous, or that's all they cared about, or they just weren't a refuge for them,
or they drove a wedge in between them and their parents.
And here's the thing, though.
Yeah.
There has to be are you turning a blind eye to some of these things because they're a revenue machine?
Drake Bell's daddy and Brian's mama wasn't.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Was Drake's mama doing that?
Yeah.
Who knows? But
he said so.
Jeanette McCurdy's mama was obviously not great. We've seen the track record with the Spears parents. Yeah. So stuff was, kids unfortunately were falling through the cracks.
Yeah.
When you got two people who or two parties, because it could be your parents, it could be your manager, whoever, that doesn't seem to have your best interests at heart.
Yeah. They kicked it off, and I'm not going to go breakdown, but I'm going to just we talk a little bit about each episode. The first episode was basically introduce us to what Nickelodeon was all about, and how Dan Steiner got popular, because he's like, hey, I can do something here for kids. That's what Nickelodeon was. We had something here for kids. That all the content that we see out there that wasn't for kids, we finally got something here for kids. And that was Nickelodeon was the first thing to do that. So I said we gravitated Nickelodeon. All that was basically kids Saturday Night Live. That's basically what it was.
And also, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, Nickelodeon was included with basic cable, and Disney was not.
Was not.
So we watched Nickelodeon because that was what was available, and it was interesting.
It also sparked the competition because when Nickelodeon got like hot, that's when Disney and Cartoon Network were trying to catch up to what Nickelodeon was doing.
Yep. I was like, and I kind of don't care.
Yeah.
If we're being completely honest.
But like Nickelodeon was just ground shaking, and Dan Snyder was the helm of all that. And they talked about that, and they talked about how it grew, but then that's when we start talking about some of the innuendos, some of the jokes that was written for these kids to do that wasn't kid appropriate.
I don't want to see adults doing some of this shit because it don't make sense. The Ariana Grande stuff, I was just like, all right, my man.
I swear, I thought that was honestly, I thought that was something that he probably used for like the bloopers or something. He was like, we'll air this, and he never aired it. But I was like, I think that made the show. Like, I don't remember.
I was with Mark Summers. He was like, that aired on Nickelodeon? I said, my man, I'm not the same questions. And nobody said nothing? Ain't no way.
And
that was also, that era is also the era where it was more digital stuff. So like, you can do like iCarly was like a show about a web show, but they actually had a website. They did like something on there just to add like it was like a real thing, so kids can go to iCarly.com or whatever. So they probably just put deleted like whatever on there just to have something on there, and then people like, yeah, ain't nobody gonna look at this, just put it on there, type of thing.
I wholeheartedly believe that man shot that and put it on TV, and because we really have no way to know now.
We don't, but it was just like some uncountable footage. And then when they was talking to my man Leon, right, and I was like, because I did not even know he experienced this, because I'm not even gonna hold y'all, because it ain't like when me, Prime, and Leon be talking, they be like this, hey, you know what, how was your experience at Nickelodeon? I didn't even talk about that. We talked about bullshit. We just talked about, stuff was cool. We was doing Michael Jackson videos. We was just having fun. It wasn't about no deep conversation. So when I seen them on the documentary, I was just like, oh, my homie, but wait a minute, why are you here? Because I did not know he was I did not know he was affected by this kind of of what happened. Then when he was,
I think his in the documentary is different, but his is more eye opening because nothing really happened to him.
Yeah.
Like, when you think about this documentary, you think, oh, something happened to him, like somebody did something, but no, he just experienced some different stuff on the set, which I think he had to be the scapegoat because like they weren't gonna do it to Keenan. They weren't gonna do it to Kel. So it's like, well, who else? Well, you got the kid. That's kind of new, so we can do it to him. So they kind of just put him in all the interesting and different weird outfits and all that other stuff.
Yeah, when he was talking about he was this superhero as like this nose guy, and when they put he first used a tight span he felt uncomfortable with in the first place. Then they put these like noses on his shoulders, which really really look like penises.
Yeah, and then also,
because I'm about to say that's a long ass nose.
And then also, let's just talk about the dog whistles here. Why the little black boy got to be nose boy with the big giant nose? Why we doing it? Why are we doing it? Just like when Brian's mom was like, why is my baby out here selling cookies like a drug dealer? Because why is that funny?
No, I'm not gonna lie. That's funny to me. I'm sorry.
And it's just like
I seen that sketch after I knew him. So him doing it, I'm like, nah, that's I know that guy. That's probably why I was funny to me. I don't know, maybe I gotta watch it without knowing him or something. I don't know.
No, I get it.
I get why it would be funny, but I also understand why she would be like, hey yo, why would y'all, because y'all would not have it ain't anybody else on all that cast doing this, and it's supposed to be funny.
I will say the other only offensive part of that whole sketch is that the one guy who he wasn't in it, actually no, he was in it, Kyle, had to be in the bathroom and they pulled him out the bathroom by his pants. and he was like had no pants on, and they told him to go back in the bathroom, and then sent him in the girls' bathroom, and then he was supposed to be quote unquote naked, and there's a lady laughing at him.
I'm sorry,
like,
what?
That,
I'm
gonna explain this shortly.
No, I'm not saying what as in I didn't understand. I'm saying what as in why.
That's
yeah. So Kyle, the one that was in this, Kyle is the one that they did that. Yeah.
When we talked about the mansion, they talked about that they got these 2 women's writers who
had, my god, I'm sorry, this pissed me off royally.
Who had to, and they were talking about this was a dream job because they have it because like we did learn from the writers. The writers don't make nothing in Hollywood.
They don't, and the opportunities are few and far between. So
they got decided they had to split that salary.
Splitting a salary is fucking nuts.
And I'm like, what? But then once again, it was their dream job and they had to do it. And
a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't even know coming into it. That's kind of why they get not to say tricked, but like they don't be knowing. And it's like you can't act like they be scared to ask questions because they'll be like, oh, you don't, they'll just rub people the wrong way. Sometimes they don't want to do that, so they just kind of take it. And they don't know.
Yeah, people take advantage of your ignorance. And I can tell you, as a woman who works in corporate America, if you depending on who you're working for, if you ask any questions, it can be perceived as aggressive. It can be perceived as, oh, well, we didn't have to give you this job, blah, blah, blah. And if you don't couch it just right, it could blow up your career. Now everybody's, oh, she's a bitch, she's hard to work with, and all I said was, why am I sharing my salary with somebody else when it's illegal for you to do that in the first place?
Exactly. Even when they was looking into that, and then they were starting to investigate him, like, hey, you split a salary with somebody, and then he even called and threatened one of the ladies, as accusing them of conspiring against him because of the split salary.
Imagine doing some bullshit. Folks be buying Audacity at BJ's.
Like, seriously, in bulk.
Seriously. My man, what?
And one of the ladies talked about how the different kind of toxic behavior that he had on set. Where, especially when it's like, I'll give you $300 to eat these 2 pints of ice cream. And she needed the money. She did it, but she never received the money. And she made a joke about that, and then he reprimanded her for making a joke about not paying her back.
Not paying up.
Yeah.
Making people give him massages.
Yeah. Throughout oh my god, I was just like, because that is part of the power that this man had, and you're backed into a corner because you really need this job, but then after a while, it's just like, where does the moral kick in? They had with the other woman writer when she was the only one at the time.
But we skipped the part. I'm sorry. We have to talk about why the other girl decided she just had to leave after that whole incident where she was pitching an idea and he told her to bend over the table and pretend she was being sodomized. Oh my! I was like, sir, what? This is
yeah, that was his type of humor. They be like, because even on Head of the Class, which is the show, and when you could tell the episodes he wrote, because it wasn't that type of humor. It would like push the line, and he liked to push the line. So you could tell the episodes of Head of the Class that he was writing compared to the other people that were producing it or whatever. And he brought that over to all that, So
yeah, it was insane.
I mean, I feel like it is. It's unfortunate, but my issue here is, why do the women have to always be out on an island by themselves? If you are a person with 2 good sense, 2 brain cells to rub together, you can see this is not normal.
And when you thought it could get worse, we got to some real deep shit that I didn't even know about. And because I'm gonna be honest, I went in here very ignorant. Cause I was just like, they ain't even touching all these kids. Seriously,
I'm sorry, that's not funny.
I'm being real. And I come to find out by the end of this thing, I was like, he's not been accused of touching anybody. But these
in this special, at least.
Not in the special. But these 3 motherfuckers that was behind the that has been in all the pictures. I don't remember their names. Okay, but I do. I remember the pickle man was
Jason. Jason, Brian Peck, and I forgot the other guy.
The third guy, they didn't really talk about much because he was just like a temp or something like that, who committed assault on the lot. But I think it just kind of threw him in there to be like, see, they really was not paying attention to what was happening, which is true.
Exactly. Yeah.
But they really delved into the first two.
The first guy, because we talk about the parents here, and the first guy, when he was sending all those emails to that girl from,
she was an extra on the Amanda show.
Yeah. And
I'm talking about shit. I kind of thought she was gonna be in the documentary, and
I'm not gonna lie to you. When her mom started talking and we didn't see her at all, I was a little afraid.
Yeah, so was I. And he talked about it. They kept sending the emails, but then in one email he sent to her was a picture of him masturbating, just saying, "I'm just thinking of you." Horrifying. First of all, back then, dial-up was a thing.
You know how grainy that picture is.
You know what I'm saying? When fucking dial was a thing, you had to wait for that shit to load up, and I'm just sitting there like,
that would make it more horrifying, because I don't want y'all to think this is a joke and we laughing. No, but the thought of having to wait for that, and she like, oh, a picture, and then you gotta wait for it to download, and that's what I would be pissed. Fuck turning it off. I'm knocking the computer on the floor.
I had to go get my one.
That's funny what she did. She said she slammed it down.
I don't think we can screenshot back then.
No.
I'm dead serious. But then
because she could have left it though. But this is on the mom.
Yeah, and the mom I text probably say, as a parent, me and they such parents, it's heartbreaking because I'm not going to sit there and just automatically throw daggers at the parent because I'm like, oh my god, the situation. But me, I'm kicking the fucking computer. First of all, I was like, we going to find him and I'm going to snap his neck. But,
she was concerned about looking like a bad parent.
Because you let this happen in the first place, And it's like...
And the one thing I do appreciate, because a lot of times we assume that these people who put their kids into show business are living vicariously through them. She told us from the gate, I was living vicariously through my daughter. And I was just like, okay, appreciate that up front.
Yeah.
You led with that. So the fact that you let this happen, like you let her go into, like try and get her foot in the show business, and then continue communicating with this grown man because he promised her that he would get her onto other shows.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not gonna say okay, but I see how we got to this point. However, you can never say for sure what you're going to do until you're in this situation. And I pray to God we're never in this situation.
Yeah.
My issue here is, I don't know if I could turn a blind eye and leave it alone. Now, if my child said, I don't want to I don't want to go any further with this because they're embarrassed or they're afraid or whatever, then we'd have to reevaluate. But I don't know if I could cut it off at the pass and be like, we just not gonna call the cops at all because I don't want them to look at me as a bad mom.
Yeah, I can't do that. I'm like,
that part I was just like, oh girl.
Yeah, that hurt. I'm like, fuck it. You gotta look at me as a bad parent, but I'm calling the cops on this because this is no. Because how else? It's like you naturally you gotta protect your child, or it's instinct, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why when we go to him and we go to the road to Brian Peck, we start flushing him out, as a pickle guy, and they they had the whole pickle joke and shit like that. But when they really got to the Drake Bell,
that was wild.
When I tell you, I felt for his dad,
mm-hmm.
because see,
he was trying.
His dad, I this whole documentary, Drake Bell's dad and Brian, Her's mother was the only two parents I was looking at that was like, hey, we trying.
Now, Brian's mom, Brian's mom was a trooper, but the way that they was presenting it in, the media, it's like his mom was so overbearing that she was the reason why. That's why she said it. Like, it was in the media portrayal that she was the reason why he got fired from the show.
He got fired. And when you're that age and all you see is like, hey, I'm out here working, and you know, she's like, did I get fired because my mama did that? Just like she says, it's like it automatically like he got shut off from his mom.
Yeah.
And it messed with their relationship for years.
Yeah. I can see why that would happen. Because in the moment, you just ruined my chance at doing whatever this was going to turn into.
You know, yeah.
You ruined my chance at that, and now they have years of friction because somebody purposely drove a wedge between the two of them.
Yeah.
And that's wild to me.
And it broke my heart. And it broke my heart because I was just like, as a parent, you got to go out there and you got to protect your child. But they're going to do everything they can. Because when you're dealing with, a lot of people don't understand, when you're dealing with children, even us as children, when we were 14, 12, 11, and 13, 14 years old, we were impressionable.
Mm-hmm.
Every child, you can sit here and walk, step on top of your soapbox, say you wasn't. You were. I was. Late Sketch was. Primetime was. You're impressionable at that age.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easy to manipulate your mind.
Somebody get in your ear and be like, well, you know, your mom, she trying to stop your career.
Exactly.
Or your dad, I don't think he should be your manager anymore.
Because no
like,
teenager is looking at the bigger picture. Jason even thanks his mama every day for picking them royalties.
Over that lump sum of cash.
That
man will be okay forever and
at
ever.
that age, he ain't thinking about it. He's thinking about what's this now. And that's why you got your parents there. Drake Bell's dad, when I say this man he said off the gate, he said, yo, I don't like this Brian Peck dude. What was it?
Yeah. His name.
I don't like it. It's something about. He said he has not physically done anything yet, but I feel it.
The flags, they round, they
round.
waving.
And he's young. He don't understand the flags right now. You're not supposed to understand the flags right now. You're innocent at that age.
They even pulled footage from when he was working on Growing Pains, and he was a bit too touchy-feely with Leonardo DiCaprio. But nobody's looking at it like that. He just looks like, I don't know, whoever, a person working on set, the PA, whatever, producer, just, you know, having a rapport with the actors.
Yeah.
But it does not require you to be that close. I can tell you what to do and where to go without physically touching you.
Yeah.
Without invading your personal space.
Uh-huh.
I'm just like...
Then again...
What happened?
I was going to say, then again, it's the 90s and, like, he was gay, so, like, you also didn't want to be like, oh, sorry if I'm being, you know, homo. Because they didn't want to make it seem like they was being homophobic. Even though he was doing stuff, they didn't want to be like, oh, maybe I'm just thinking about it too much because he's gay. Something like that. That was probably something later why I think most of them just went in blindly and signed that letter. But we'll talk about that later.
But this is my thing. The letters pissed me off the most. Because I know we're going to get to that. But I feel like they gassed the shit out his dad with that too. That man did not come and say, I don't want... Well, now we don't know. Because this is from his point of view. The way he told the story did not sound like he said, I don't want this man near my son because he's gay.
Yeah.
If all he said, because I don't care who it is, if all he said was this person is too close to my son, he's in his personal space far too much for what he is doing and what this involves, remove him.
Yeah.
Even if that means set boundaries where you don't need to touch him, you don't need to be hugging on him or putting your arm around him or whatever the case is, because I'm sure there were other people on set who had interaction with him. But come on now, y'all, like, you know when something is off.
Exactly. And even to the point where it was like, hey, and Drake Bell said him and his mom, his dad and his mom They got divorced. It was not, doing anything good.
And it kind of sounded like she did this just to spite him, which is fucked up because now he's a pawn.
Yeah.
And has lifelong trauma, because you was too busy trying to spite your ex-husband.
That's what it did sound like. And even when his dad tried to pull him away from Brian Peck to the point where it's like, okay, now this man's getting married. You don't have to be calling him and going to his dressing room, stuff like that. He had to create a wedge, and put in Drake's head that you don't need your dad, and you gotta get rid of him. And then when he started spending more time with his mom, and then Brian Peck saw that, and then where it was like, hey, my mom don't want to drive around Hollywood, so Brian will come pick me up. And then when he told me that his dad, he didn't want to be his manager, it hurt him. But he told his mom, he said, look, fine, I can't fight this, but I need you to make sure that he ain't alone with Brian Peck. He ain't alone. But that ain't the part that broke my heart though. It was okay. So
I feel like I know what you're about to say, but go ahead.
No, but okay, but I know it's a little more conscious in it because when Drake gets into the actual molesting part, he still can't even talk about it.
Yeah,
which is trauma. It's completely understandable. It was making me bad as mom. What hurt me, which took the air out of my body, is when after they start, when Drake couldn't take it no more, they had to finally get Brian Peck out of here, arrest him, and do all this stuff, and convict him of child molestation. And he calls his dad. He said,
"Oh, this is definitely because that's what I thought you was gonna say."
He
that
calls
was
his
rough.
dad, and he says they got him. And he says, "Well, he said, yeah, he got Brian Peck." He said, "I knew it. He swore me. I knew it. I'm just so glad he did touch you."
That was. I was like, "Oh my god."
I exhaled. I was just like, "Oh my!" I felt that, and I'm just like, because he knows now. But that phone call, because I'm sitting there picturing to myself, like, God forbid, one of my kids call me, and I had a feeling you blocked me out, but then you tell me like, hey, I'm sorry, they got him. I knew it, and I'm thinking up and down, like, I knew you were gonna get him for somebody, but it wasn't you. And knowing that you were the main one, I just know right then there. Even if he told me years down the line, I don't want to this man's jail cell. And like remember how Gina was pulling the guy like, you gonna give me the change, and just keep banging his head against the bar and shit like that.
You get on my nerves.
That's how. Oh my god! I was like, and when they asked him, so how did you feel when you really found out it was your son? He just broke down.
I really did feel bad for him
because he felt like he failed, but and as I'm saying, he was doing everything a parent
everything
you're
supposed to do in this situation. Because you can't go to the cops and be like, I just feel uncomfortable with this man, until unfortunately something happens.